CBS News special live coverage of the Artemis II capsule splashdown as the crew returns to Earth tonight.
Artemis II crew is go for launch.
3, 2, 1, booster ignition, and liftoff. Humanity's next great voyage begins.
We surpassed the furthest distance humans have ever traveled from planet Earth. To all of you down there on Earth and around Earth, we love you from the moon. It is quite an impressive sight. Wow, it's amazing.
And we saw sights that no human has ever seen before, not even in Apollo.
It is the thrill and honor of a lifetime to have been on this journey.
We will always choose Earth. We will always choose each other.
I'm inspired. This is a CBS News special report. I'm Jerika Duncan. Thank you so much for joining us as history is being made. The members of the first crewed flight to the moon in more than 50 years are about to return to Earth. In less than 40 minutes, the Artemis II team will splash down off the coast of San Diego. This will cap a successful 10-day mission that took Commander Reed Wiseman, pilot Victor Glover, and mission specialist Christina Cook and Jeremy Hansen further than any human has ever traveled. In total, from the start to the finish, their flight will be estimated at 694,481 miles. There was another part of this history that was made on this flight as well. Cook was the first woman on a lunar mission, Glover the first African American, and Jeremy Hansen the first Canadian. Minutes from now, the entry sequence will begin. The Artemis II crew will eventually enter the atmosphere in the Orion capsule at nearly, get this, 24,000 miles per hour. And if that is not big enough for you, the heat shield on re-entry will endure temperatures as high as 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit. This 10-day mission has been a technological and scientific success for NASA, but also captured the attention of the world with breathtaking images of the moon we have never, ever seen before. Artemis II is an important step in NASA's planned return to the moon in 2028 and the eventual goal of building a base there. Senior national correspondent Mark Strassman has been covering the entire Artemis space program, and he is at NASA's Johnson Space Center Mission Control for the Artemis II crew. Mark, walk us through what is happening and how you are feeling at this hour.
Well, I'm feeling hopeful and fingers crossed, of course, that it all goes well. I want to walk you through, Jerika, the next milestone in this re-entry process that is critical, and that is the separation of the service module and the crew module. The service module sits underneath the crew module. 4 bolts are going to fire that will separate the two. The service module will plunge to Earth and burn up in the atmosphere. Why this is important? Because once the service module is gone, it exposes the heat shield that's at the bottom of the crew capsule. The heat shield is so important because, as you just described, Jerika, the temperatures are going to be incredibly hot, up to 5,000 degrees. That's half the surface temperature of the sun. And the heat shield is absolutely crucial to protect the lives of the 4 astronauts as they plunge to Earth. They will be, when they re-enter, about 76 miles high north of the Pacific and southeast of Hawaii. And at that point, it will be about a 13-minute plunge to the ocean. There'll be parachutes will come in 3 phases. It will gradually decelerate, of course, first very quickly and then very gradually when the chutes open. But about 20 minutes from now, Jerika, we're going to have, with any luck, 4 astronauts who went deeper into space than any humans ever have back here.
And
home
Mark,
again.
That separation that you talk about, we're just seeing that happening right now. I want to go to CBS News space contributor Bill Harwood. This, as you know, Bill, is considered one of the most dangerous parts of the mission. During Artemis I's re-entry, there was a problem with that heat shield. How did NASA adjust for this mission? What changes did they make?
Well, you know, it's interesting, Jerika. You know, when we saw separation, we just saw that heat shield for the very first time as the capsule pulled away from that service module. You know, during that first flight, they were surprised to discover some damage to the heat shield. The capsule made it down safely. There was no one on board, but had there been anybody on board, they would have been fine. But they weren't expecting that damage. They spent more than a year investigating this, carrying out extensive tests, and they ultimately decided it's safe to come in again with the same heat shield by using a different trajectory. You know, it kind of comes in like a stone skipping on water. It comes down, bounces back up off the atmosphere, and then comes down again. The damage was related to it coming back up out of the atmosphere and this heat shield cooling off more than they thought, and that led to that damage, a heat problem down deep. This time around, they're still going to do a tiny skip, but not much of one. It'll keep the heat shield hot. That's what allows the thing to work properly and prevent any damage from happening. They're very optimistic. This is all going to work flawlessly, but as Mark said, it's a nail-biting moment, no question about it.
Yeah, I think we can all feel that right now, and just waiting for that 8:07 to approach, and prayerfully everything goes according to plan. Joining me here in New York is former NASA astronaut Suni Williams. She completed 3 missions aboard the International Space Station. Suni is second on the list of cumulative time in space by a NASA astronaut with 608 days in space. Suni, you've gone through this yourself. Just give us a sense of what the astronauts are thinking right now and what you're feeling.
Just to quickly talk about Reed and Victor and Christina and Jeremy, I think they're pretty excited right now.
Yeah.
That milestone that just happened, the separation, everything needs to go as planned, and that's like the first step of really just starting to come home, as the timeline indicated, you guys have mentioned before. So they're excited. They're in their seats. They're all strapped in. They're probably getting ready, you know, talking about they're going to start to feel, you know, gravity before too long, and that allows you actually to tighten down your straps, because before that you put your seatbelt on, but you're still sort of floating.
Right.
So they're probably anticipating this is going to happen before long, and just get themselves buckled in as good as possible as they start to do the re-entry into the atmosphere. So they're pumped. I'm sure they're excited. This is sort of the end, but also a very exciting time. I'm so excited for them. This has been an amazing mission, 10 days of just one awesome thing to see after another. I mean, it's just awesome. I have a little piece of, you know, a little jealous inside of me, like, man, I wish I was up there. I wish I was being able to do that. You know, that's so cool. But I'm so happy for this generation of astronauts to be able to do this and open the door for us, you know, being able to be sustainably on the moon. And this is just cracking the door open to that, and to lead to so many more discoveries as we pave our way, getting closer and closer to going to Mars.
Yeah, I know before we went on air, when I asked you, do you miss it? Do you wish that was you in there right now? And you said yes, absolutely. I want to bring in another distinguished former NASA astronaut, Brigadier General Nick Hague. General Hague has completed 2 missions on the International Space Station and is now the Assistant Deputy Chief of Space Operations for the United States Space Force. Nick, you also experienced splashdown, one with Suni, actually. Describe what this experience is like for you, and especially those who have experience being in space.
Yeah, at the end of a mission, it's the huge exclamation point. It is exciting, and you know, Suni nailed it in her description. It is a dynamic ride that has, as you start to re-enter the Earth's atmosphere, you start to feel G's that you haven't felt in a while, and then all of a sudden your heat shield starts to work, and outside the window you're watching bits and pieces of your heat shield burn and streak by, and you're inside this ball of fire, and then that culminates with you know, slowing down, and chutes come out, and all of a sudden you're bobbing in the water. It is, you know, for the crews, it's that first moment in the mission where they can effectively relax a little bit, because there's not much left for them to do. Now it's just the recovery forces coming to get them out of the capsule.
And we're going to come back to you in a second, Nick. CBS News national correspondent Carter Evans is actually in San Diego, where a United States Navy team launched from one of the Orion recovery positions. Carter, how big is an effort? How big is that effort right now?
The recovery effort is huge, and nothing about it is improvised. They have been practicing this, the team that is, they've been practicing this for years. All right, so this is the USS John P. Murtha. It is an amphibious docking ship. So basically what it does is it has a wet deck on board, it has a helicopter pad, it has a medical bay, all the communications they need. And what they've been doing over the last couple of years is practicing this, every possibility, over and over and over again. When it hits the water, what's going to happen after that? Who is going to be the first person to open the door? Who is going to be the first astronaut out? What is the plan? They've been practicing that for quite some time. What they have also been practicing is recovering the capsule. Once they've safely got those astronauts out of the capsule and onto the ship, they want to get the capsule onto the ship. Now, I mentioned that this is an amphibious ship. It has a wet dock. It's essentially like a garage, and they've practiced this over and over again as well. Getting that capsule into the garage, they say it's like pulling a car into a garage, and we're going to get a look at it coming up in just a little while.
And we can't wait. And someone who knows all about that, Carter, is retired Lieutenant Colonel David Mahan, also joins us on the set. He is the former director of the operations for the group tasked to recover and rescue astronauts. David, how will the operation work once the Orion capsule splashes down? We heard a little bit from Carter, but you have that know-how. Tell us what we can expect to see.
Absolutely. So I would say you're going to see what is the definition of a team. So the partnership between the military and NASA and all the different agencies that are involved in this, they've been practicing this for years. So the capsule is going to splash down. The ship is going to be about 2 nautical miles away from that. And one of the teams that's behind the scenes that people don't get to see a lot is the weather side of the house. So they're going to be releasing weather balloons because the ship wants to get as close to that splashdown as they possibly can. Obviously taking into account the debris that's expected to fall off to keep the aircraft and the ship safe. So once they do that, they're going to approach the capsule. They're going to check for hazards to make sure it's safe to approach, open the hatch, do initial medical check on the crew, and then they're going to start extracting them. They're going to take them out on a front porch, and then they're going to hoist them and take them to the ship so they can get med checks.
You say this with such ease, and you're so calm. You have so much confidence, though, in the science and the practice and the years of training. Talk to us a little bit about that.
So absolutely. So the teams that have been doing this for years. So professionals, experts at what they do. It's been a partnership with NASA and the military, with the National Guard, with the reserves, with the Air Force, with the Space Force, with the Coast Guard. I'm sure I'm leaving some out, but it is really, truly a joint effort with a team of professionals that are there and they know what they're doing.
All right, we look forward to seeing that teamwork at its finest. I want to turn now to CBS News meteorologist Rob Marciano. How does the forecast look for Artemis II?
Well, first of all, it's so great to have you guys on set because you're calming us down, because Jarek and I are very anxious about what's about to go down tonight. I'm not so anxious about the forecast itself. It looks pretty good. We got this big event, so let's go to the big wall here and talk about it. You know, it's not your typical San Diego weather for April, which would mean crystal blue skies, high pressure control. We actually have a late season storm that's hitting Northern California right now, even bringing some tornado warnings to the Bay Area. Luckily, the troughiness and the cold front is far enough back to where it shouldn't interfere. But you can see we do have some clouds at the lower levels and at the upper levels. That might limit some of the visibility. But what we saw there from the boat or from the ship, it looks pretty good. Can you believe this thing starts its entry at 2,000 miles away, out near Hawaii, and then slows down from 24,000 miles an hour down to a landing here just about 50 miles. The way they calculate this is amazing to me as well. All right, so water temperature, 65 degrees, about the air temperature as well. Winds 7 miles an hour, that's important. Waves now up to 5 feet. All right, so some of the criteria with this is that you can't have waves greater than 6 feet. So that's more so for the safety of the crew and the rescue crews trying to get the guys out of the capsule there. So that's still what we think is going to be happening here. We do have a little bit of cloud cover, mostly east towards the landfall there, but weather does look to be okay. Certainly could be worse. They can't have any rainfall, right? Because I would imagine the rainfall would knock down the parachutes.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be good. That doesn't seem to be an issue. But I'm very nervous about the reentry before the chutes open.
Yeah, I have to say, even just flying.
Thank you.
I know
Don't worry.
But even just flying in a plane, sometimes you worry about turbulence and all of that. To hear 24,000 miles an hour coming in, back to Earth, it's like, how is that possible? It's really amazing. As we wait, though, for the crew to return to Earth, let's take a look back at some of the sights and sounds of this historic mission around the moon.
We are going for all humanity. Your Artemis II crew is go for launch.
3, 2, 1. booster ignition, and liftoff. The crew of Artemis II now bound for the moon.
Core stage separated.
We have good separation, good motion.
Your Integrity crew is go for TLI. With this burn to the moon, we do not leave Earth. We choose it.
Integrity looks like a good burn. We're confirming.
We surpassed the furthest distance humans have ever traveled from planet Earth. And our crew would like to propose a couple of potential names for those items or those areas. We lost a loved one. Her name was Carol, and we would like to call it Carol.
Integrity and Carol Crater. Loud and clear.
As we prepare to go out of radio communication, we're still to feel your love from Earth.
Houston, we have you the same, and it is so great to hear from Earth again.
This is continues to be unreal. The sun has gone behind the moon.
You are special. In all of this emptiness, this is a whole bunch of nothing, this thing we call the universe. You have this oasis, this beautiful place that we get to exist together.
The four of us having been there just now, this is nothing short of a miracle.
And back here with us, former NASA astronaut Sunny Williams. It doesn't get old. I see you tearing up as we were watching.
No, it never gets old. It's really, really cool because you know that these are your friends that are on board. So, no, I'm not nervous. I'm just really excited and really happy for them. I know that this, like we mentioned before, this is a huge team effort over, a decade working on trying to make sure that, everything, all the T's are crossed, all the I's are dotted. They changed the entry profile just to make sure, because of the heat shield issues on the previous flight, to make sure that they're going to get back. So, yes, emotional, but in a really happy way.
I mean, you must feel like part of your soul is with them on this.
Oh, absolutely. I know all those guys very, very well. Yeah. Got to be actually on the selection board for a couple of those astronauts, the Americans, and of course I've known Jeremy for a long time as well. So I've known them as baby astronauts and seen them grow up, and hopefully we gave them some good lessons along the way.
If you look at your screen right now on the far left side, well, actually the full screen, you can see the images of the astronauts there. And we just heard from NASA that they said everything is in excellent shape. So thumbs up there as we continue to see and watch what is happening and watch the people. I mean, you can see folks outside smiling and just so excited. And Rob, I know you got a chance to be in the midst of that, talking to the young people. I think you got a little choked up at one point.
You can't help it. It's a different vibe now. We went from the launch where people were gathered around the launch pad itself or in view of the launch pad, or even launch parties around the country, right? Watching this thing go up. And it was a very communal event, and once it went up, it was joyful, and you were just in awe of the whole spectacle and cheering them on and sending your kids off to school or something. Hope to see you on the way back, right? But now it's a different vibe. Now, I mean, it's great to be with everybody here, but we're kind of now witnessing it, a little bit more secluded, right? Maybe in our living rooms at home, watching on TV. Probably the biggest groups are at Mission Control and on that ship right now. So it's definitely a different vibe, and one that's hopefully we'll be celebrating here in just a few minutes.
I want to turn back to Nick Hague there in Washington. What part of the mission stood out to you, Nick?
Well, when I was glued to the feed when they were doing the lunar flyby, knowing them so well and being able to watch them on the stream from the capsule and see their body language and the excitement, I was riveted. So that 6 hours, couldn't stop watching. And then to see some of the first images that they were able to transmit down in high definition of the moon with the Earth in the background, it's just so captivating. It's so exciting. It says this is the beginning, and that's what this is. This is a test mission that is paving the way for follow-on missions so that we can get to the moon and establish a base on it and continue to explore.
You see some of those pictures beside you right now of the moon, the pictures that we had not seen before, those craters, and I think so much of what this exploration represents is the future. I want to turn to senior national correspondent Mark Strassman. He's at NASA's Johnson Space Center. Mark, if you could touch on the developments, the exploration, the advancement in technology, and where ultimately this gets us closer to.
Well, remember, this is the first lunar mission in more than a half century. It's the dawn of really a new lunar era for NASA of human exploration. Haven't been there since 1972 in Apollo 17, and this is the next step to an eventual moon landing, which would come with the Artemis IV, which NASA has scheduled for early in 2028. I'm just also struck by how far this crew has come. I mean, physically, that is, remember just 4 days ago, they were another 250,000 miles in deep space, further than any human being has ever gone before. But then just as people, I mean, we were all touched and moved and stirred by some of the images that they sent back to us of the solar eclipse and the far side of the moon and Earthsat. And you could tell how touched they were, too, that even though 3 of the 4 of them were experienced astronauts, had been into low Earth orbit with the International Space Station, this was just a different experience and a different perspective that they shared with us through their pictures. And it was sort of remarkable to experience vicariously through their eyes and through their interpretation of events. And it really, I think, opened the eyes for a lot of people looking on. Remember, Jerika, that 3 of every 4 people on planet Earth alive today were born after Apollo 17. So this is their first time witnessing any person come anywhere near the moon. And this will be something that they will always remember. And can you imagine what it's going to be like when we have a moon landing? I mean, you think the excitement here was huge. I mean, that one will be through the roof. Yeah, and we're watching the live pictures right now from Artemis as they're getting closer and closer to Earth. I want to go back to CBS News contributor, space contributor Bill Harwood. There are ambitious goals, absolutely, for the Artemis program going forward. What are they? And how likely are we to see some of those goals, you know, that meet what they want in terms of getting to Mars or, you know, companies being able to do things that they're not doing now? How close are we to that next phase? Well, it's interesting, you know, Jerika, the Artemis moon program right now, the plan calls for a flight next year to test docking and rendezvous procedures with moon landers in Earth orbit. Those landers are being built by SpaceX and Blue Origin. If they get that worked out in 2028, NASA wants to land 1 mission, if not 2 missions on the moon, put boots on the moon near the moon's south pole, and that's going to lead to what NASA Administrator Jared Isaacman says will be 2 moon landings a year as the agency begins building a lunar base near the South Pole. But I got to tell you, you know, that's assuming successive administrations, successive Congresses provide the funding for all that. Isaacman is optimistic, but you know, a lot of Americans look at the moon as we've been there, we've done that. We won the original space race back in the 70s or 60s and 70s, and might not see the value in spending that kind of money to build moon bases and that stuff. But the agency wants to do that. They view the moon as a stepping stone to Mars, and so that's the logical next step. All right. Again, we're looking at the live picture, and we just see it getting closer and closer very quickly, about 20 minutes away, potentially from splashdown. Joining us now is Jana Levin, a CBS News contributor and professor of physics and astronomy at Barnard College. Professor, what do you think the impact of this mission will ultimately be?
Well, we're back in our journey exploring both the solar system, but also, in some sense, more of Earth. It's thought that the moon is actually part of the Earth, that there was this cataclysmic collision 4.5 billion years ago when the Earth was forming, and that material, some of it fell back to Earth, but a big chunk of it became our moon. So in some sense, I think we're really expanding our horizon of what we think of as home. We have crossed the threshold now.
And again, looking at those live pictures, getting closer and closer, Jana, the Artemis II crew, they are now roughly 400,000 feet above Earth and about to make their first contact with the upper atmosphere. During this time period, they will enter a radio blackout for 6 minutes due to the plasma formation around the Orion capsule upon hitting the atmosphere. Let's take some time to listen in to Mission Control.
And as predicted, we've entered our communications blackout. This will be a 6-minute blackout period. No voice, no data from the crew. We're 30 seconds away from the anticipated point of peak heating on the vehicle, where temperatures will rise to about 4,000 to 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit. This is the true test of our trajectory. And from the G5 aircraft in the vicinity of the splashdown zone, this view of integrity. So that pinpoint of light shows the vehicle as it enters the period of peak heating in the Earth's atmosphere, the first tug of gravity being felt by Integrity's astronauts since their launch back on April 1st. Four and a half minutes until the end of the blackout period. Time to splashdown, 11 minutes, 33 seconds.
That little dot was.
You are looking at what appears to be a ball of fire moving at a pace that it is not normal. This is a visualization, excuse me.
The landing and support officer
but this is essentially what is happening. Sunny, your reaction?
An exciting time. Obviously, you know, we can't talk to the ground because during these time frames when we're coming in, because of this ball of fire that's all around us.
Yes.
And the windows, they'll be able to see, you know, plasma going by the windows that we do in all the other spacecrafts. You see the spacecraft sort of change color, you know, around because of that outside of the window. So they're probably seeing some of that plasma right near as they're looking out the windows. You know, Reed and Victor right there. So pretty exciting time frame. You know what's going on. Like Victor mentioned one time in one of the interviews, riding a ball of fire into the atmosphere is a little exciting. But
what does it feel like? Are you, the G-forces, and then does it get warmer inside the capsule?
No, it doesn't get warmer inside. That's the capsule is made for that. The heat shield is made for that. This entry was made specifically knowing that they had some issues from before. And so, no, you don't feel the heat inside, but you can just see what's going on around you. You'll start feeling the G-forces since they've started coming into the atmosphere. So like I said, now they're getting a little bit pushed, and the G-forces change during the entry. So there's a couple times that it feels like it's pushing down on you, then it will let up, and then it'll push down on you again. So you know you're coming home. This is obvious time right now that you know that you're coming home.
Yeah, and Sunny, thank you for that description. I want to turn to former astronaut Nick Hague. Nick, what do you remember about the experience, and are you smiling at this point? Are you nervous? Like, what's the feeling as you're entering, back, getting ready for that splashdown?
Yeah,
Walk us through that.
It's an assault on the senses. Sunny hit it right. I look out the window and you get this light show, which is amazing when you think about the physics behind the heat shield and how it slowly melts away and burns away and brings you and slows you down. But you also get a lot of sound. You're out in the vacuum of space, and there's not a lot of sound that you hear as you interface with the very upper atmosphere. But as you get deeper into the atmosphere, you start to hear wind noise, and you really get a sense for the speed that you're going. It's a pretty amazing ride.
Wow. Again, a visualization. Although Rob and I both were like, oh, my God, it's happening.
And you talk about this inferno outside your window like it's an everyday thing. It's just, at any point during your mind when you go through one of these reentries, do you think, oh, I hope this heat shield works here?
Oh, again, to talk about the team, a decade of people really crossing the T's and dotting the I's, making sure, we've taken all the lessons learned on spacecraft beforehand and incorporating into that. So we have a lot of trust. There's a lot of trust in this business and in our team to make sure that they do the right thing.
And is there any chit-chat going on during this blackout period?
I'm sure they're like looking at each other, and probably the color inside of the spacecraft's a little bit different because of the plasma. I remember on Soyuz, everybody looked a little bit, the whole inside looked a little bit pink because we have windows on the side. So yeah, I'm sure they're looking around and talking to each other about it.
Well, NASA is about to reestablish contact with Mission Control, so we want to listen in and hear what they have to say.
We are now processing data from Integrity. Landing and support officer reports the small boats are en route to the splashdown target zone. Passing through 150,000 feet, our trajectory is perfect. We're getting intermittent views of Integrity. Still waiting to establish voice communication.
Integrity, Houston, comm check, post-blackout.
Houston, Integrity, we have you loud and clear.
Your trajectory is nominal, and your recovery teams have visual.
Guidance looks good.
No action for the enabled internal camera controller fail.
Big cheers from the viewing room here in Mission Control as
everything looking good as we're just listening to Mission Control talk about the data that they're already processing as the capsule makes its way to its splashdown. I want to turn to you, Dave, because now we're at the point where they're talking about the boats getting ready. Again, this is something that, you know, you've planned. This is years in the making. What's going through the minds of those who are there, and they're also getting this information in real time.
So as everybody's tracking everything, they're just executing what they've been trained to do. So it's game on for everybody there. Everybody's excited. Everybody's happy to hear from the crew now that they have contact back. And everybody's going to start moving closer and closer to the capsule and ready to extract the crew from the spacecraft.
And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that's what we're seeing right there, that first.
It is. So that is one of the small boats moving in. So everything is precise based on time. And as time goes on and debris gets tracked and stuff like that, they'll actually move closer and closer to the spacecraft.
Integrity impact to the camera controller fail.
And right now the ship is headed in from one of their checkpoints as well to get closer.
When you think about what is gained from some of what we're learning and the idea of possibly being able to go even beyond the moon one day, why did it take so long?
Time to splash down 4.5 minutes.
Well, you know, we spent the last couple decades building the International Space Station and flying the space shuttle to learn about how we operate in low Earth orbit. And we've learned so much from that, that it's sort of opened the door, you know, of course, technology as it comes in computers, but also manufacturing. All of that has changed over the last like 3 decades and allows us to build these amazing spacecraft nowadays that allow the crew members to take those observations, which was, oh, there it is.
And then you have a NASA plane right now capturing Artemis II, making its way down. Again, we know that the speed at this point is, I believe we're at about, I want to listen to Mission Control, but I'm not sure if we're at the maximum or if we've passed that period yet.
I think we're subsonic now.
We were subsonic, so they probably heard the boom.
Yeah.
And still no parachute. There you go.
Oh, there's the parachute.
And
okay.
there go the first series of parachutes.
And we're about 4 minutes
and
away.
We're on drogues.
Yeah.
You hear people cheering.
Here we go. Yeah.
Drogues out the window.
Look at that.
2 good drogue shoots. Next up.
We copy. We see them.
Next up, the deployment of pilot parachutes that will pull the main chutes out. Time to splash down 3 minutes and 10 seconds. Perfect descent rate according to flight dynamics.
Good rates on 2 drogues.
We see the same on board.
Passing through 10,000 feet, still on drogues. Main chute deploy. We're at 5,000 feet. Search and recovery beacon has been activated on integrity. And we have 3 good main chutes. Good 3 main chutes, good reefing, good descent rate.
Good rates, and we see 3 good-looking parachutes. Integrity. Cabin pressure indicates no need for hydrazine checks.
Integrity copies.
This is a perfect descent for Integrity. Its crew sounding hale and hearty on board. Time to splash down 1 minute, 15 seconds. Integrity about to complete a journey spanning 694,481 miles from its launch from the Kennedy Space Center back on April 1st, and a trip around the moon. Passing through 1,000 feet.
Integrity, splashdown, sending post-landing command now.
Splashdown confirmed.
Copy splashdown, waiting on VLDR.
Splashdown confirmed at 7:07 p.m. Central Time, 5:07 p.m. Pacific Time. From the pages of Jules Verne to a modern-day mission to the moon, a new chapter of the exploration of our celestial neighbor is complete. Integrity's astronauts back on Earth. And the landing and support officer reports the vehicle is stable 1. We still will be deploying the crew module uprighting system to maintain that orientation. A perfect bullseye splashdown for Integrity and its 4 astronauts.
We are all breathing a sigh of relief. So much excitement. We're clapping with everybody else.
So good.
We're watching it. As you just heard, Rob Navias, the NASA commentator there, saying that this was pretty much a perfect landing with precision, the way that it oriented itself. Sunny, Dave, give us your thoughts as you're watching. as you're seeing everything work the way that it's supposed to?
I'm super excited for these guys. And, you know, it's funny because you do this like check, check, check as one thing after another. As we were watching all the parachutes come out, there's 11 on this vehicle. So when you, one after another, and you can feel when the mains come out. And then it's like, okay, great. That's good. We're going to land a little softer than if we didn't have those. So that's a good thing, right? So it's like check, check. Next thing is, you know, the crew is then getting ready for the splashdown. So they're just making sure, you know, their bodies are in the right position. They're all strapped in as good as they can. And the splashdown, of course, itself, you know, okay, boom, we're down, and now let's make sure we're staying upright, because that would be good and not be, you know, turned over, which we call stable too. So that's another check. And now I think they're just hanging out, waiting for the rescue forces to come get them. Just happy, you know, to have them back on the ground. It's really awesome.
And Dave, to that point with the splashdown, how long before we could possibly see the astronauts?
Yeah, so there's a lot of excitement, and all the forces that have been training for this for a long time are starting to move in. You can see the small vessels moving in right now. From the hatch opening until having them in the med bay is going to be an hour or less, is what they're shooting for. So they're going to get there as quick as possible, make sure everything is good, and then they're going to get them out of the capsule so they can start hoisting them.
All right, I want to turn to Nick Hague. You know, this is a small community. It's like you all are all family, having experienced this on some level, maybe not to this extent, obviously, but you've been to space, you've been in a splashdown, you're watching these images as they're coming in. What's going through your mind?
I'm happy for them. It's so exciting. I think that you mentioned a word, family, right? So the mission really isn't over until you get them back to their families. And so that's what this big team is out there doing. They're going to extract a crew. They're going to get them back to the vessel. They're going to get them on a helicopter that's going to take them back to San Diego, and then they're going to get on a plane and go back to Ellington in Houston and finally reunite with their families. And that's when, you know, the mission itself is pretty much over. But this is just watching them splash down. You know, you can't help but smile and feel the excitement and be proud of those 4 individuals and their families and the sacrifices that they've made, and the whole team at NASA and the whole team you see in action right here. It's just amazing what we can do when we come together, and this is a really proud moment for the country.
Absolutely. We just heard from NASA saying that Commander Reed Weissman just radioed in, and he said, quote, all 4 astronauts are in good condition. You know, something that struck me, Sunny, Dave, you guys could speak on this, but he said during one of his interviews, the challenge now is to this generation and the next to make sure this record is not long-lived. How do we accomplish that?
Absolutely. You know, this is one of those things, this is like I mentioned in the beginning, this is just opening the door. What he meant by that was the next thing is going to be even better. The next thing is even better. We're going to keep moving. We're going to keep exploring. We're going to keep finding questions that we didn't even think to ask by doing this. And so I think the records, if they're distance, if they're time, whatever, we're going to, you know, conquer those in short order. And we hope that we've inspired the next generation to take on that challenge and to dream big and to think about, you know, things bigger than right in front of them. Like what is next? So that, I think that's the challenge.
Dave?
And I think the Artemis motto says it all for all humanity.
Mm-hmm. Jana, if you're still with us, I want to bring that same question to you in terms of the idea of not letting this be the point where we stop and we're talking about another 50 years, but we're talking about this actively in the next 2 to 3 years as the race continues to be the first to do a lot of these different things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an entirely new time when we're thinking about actually developing a station on the moon. And that's just a next adventure. Can we build places to live? Can we find the resources in the regolith? Can we extract water? Can we extract fuel? So it really is a new era. And obviously, it's incredibly exciting. I was very nervous watching that splashdown, so I'm still recovering. But it's really a thrilling time.
Talk to us, too, about the funding. I mean, this mission we're talking billions of dollars every time to go up there. Yeah. And as mentioned earlier in this special report, just having the support of different administrations. As people, you know, will say, look at the things happening here on Earth. How can we afford to continue this exploration and want to see those positive results that could impact everybody, mankind.
Yeah, I think when we have missions like this, we have that overview effect that the astronauts have been talking about, looking at the Earth as a whole, having a sense that this isn't partisan, this is about being a human being, and it's an international effort, it's an international collaboration. And what we find historically is that by investing in science, by investing in curiosity, by celebrating exploration, that we also invent, we innovate, we end up impacting Earth in ways that are completely unforeseen, that we can't predict. But it lifts us all up. So it's not linear. It's not simply spend $1, lose $1 somewhere else. It actually rises up all of us, I think, in the end.
And Jana, stay with us. Right now, though, I want to go to CBS News national correspondent Carter Evans. He's in San Diego. Carter?
That's not an issue. What is more important is
I got to tell you, I had goosebumps here the whole time, and I breathed a sigh of relief when we came out of that 6-minute blackout. There are actually people here along the waterfront, even though you can't see this. People here are out there. They're looking. They're hoping they could see something, but I think people just want to be a part of this, and that's why they're here. And this does feel like a collective moment for all of us right now. Let's talk about what's going to happen next. We're in this period right now where Navy divers are kind of waiting. They're waiting for some of those hot, maybe dangerous gases to dissipate off the capsule, and then they're going to move in. And what's going to happen is they're going to install a stabilizing collar around the capsule, and basically that's going to keep it stable and keep it from rocking too much in the ocean. And then I also heard one of our astronaut commentators talking about the front porch. That's an inflatable raft that they're going to pull up to the front of this, where they're basically going to, those Navy divers who are also medical doctors are going to climb onto that raft. They're going to open the capsule, and they're going to go inside the capsule first to check on those astronauts, make sure they're okay, and then they're going to start moving forward with the mission to get them out. We've got 4 helicopters circling overhead right now, 2 for imagery and 2 to transport astronauts. Now the order in which they're going to leave the capsule has already been decided. We're not sure what it is. We're not privy to that, but here's what's going to happen. They're going to hoist them up with helicopters, and they're going to bring them back over to the ship, and then they're going to start a barrage of medical tests. We're talking about saliva samples, blood tests, motor tests, cognitive tests, and those are going to be going on for the next few hours just to see how this space flight over the last 10 days in this microgravity environment has impacted these astronauts. Once they are ready, they could take a nap on the ship if they want. They could stay there for the night if they want, but more likely they're going to bring them back here to North Island Naval Station by helicopter. They could potentially spend the night here in San Diego at a hotel before they move on to Houston and reunite with their families.
All right, well, chivalry is not dead, so I want to see astronaut Cook come off first. Ladies first. I want to turn to you now, though, Rob Marciano, who has a special update for us. So excited about this one.
Well, it's a follow-up story, as we say in the news business. So last week at the launch, I got to meet a lot of great Americans, a lot of young, aspiring astronauts as well outside the Kennedy Space Center. We got to speak with one young future astronaut. Take a listen.
I'm so obsessed with space, so I'll see Orion launch from ground to sky, so it'll be totally exciting.
Well, Commander Jack instantly launched to superstar status after that, as you can imagine. So we're bringing him back. There he is with Mom and Dad.
Hey.
Joining us, I assume, from Atlanta. They drove from Atlanta to the Space Center to watch the launch. And there you are. Hey, Mom, did you wash the spacesuit? Because I know it was not quite as white by the end of the launch there a week and a half ago.
We did wash it, but it's honestly stained. We need to get a new spacesuit.
I love it. Get yourself an orange one. That's the key on launch and landing. All right, Jack, you just witnessed your first splashdown. What are you feeling right now?
Happy.
Were you nervous when we didn't hear from the astronauts for that 6-minute blackout period? No, you knew. You're just like the astronauts on set here. They just don't get nervous. I think you're built for this stuff. So after everything that you've seen, you saw the launch with Mom and Dad and your sister and with me, and you've been watching it, I'm sure, throughout the week when you're not at school. Do you still want to be an astronaut after all this?
Yeah.
That's the right answer, Jack. That's the right answer. Look, I know it's past your bedtime, so I don't expect you to be as excited as you were the other afternoon. But I know that you have been wanting to ask the astronaut team a question. Why don't you share that with us if you were to be speaking to the astronauts right now?
Yeah, what did you want to tell them? What did you want to tell Artemis crew? You said you wanted to thank them for something.
Thank you for sending pictures to the world.
Oh. Thank you. I think, we're all saying thank you. Those pictures were absolutely stunning. Jack, do you have a favorite picture? Was it one of the moon itself? Is it the one with the moon and the Earth, or the one with the Earth so far away it looks so tiny? What was your favorite?
Say it loud.
It was like the one which had the word Mars on it, and it was pointing at it too.
So our favorite picture was the eclipse, where you could see Mars in the background.
Oh yeah.
And we showed him when was labeled so that you could see that it was Mars. So that was our favorite picture, was the eclipse.
That was so good.
There you go. I agree. I think you could see Saturn on that one, and all the stars. That was amazing. Hey, do you guys think you're going to go to the next launch?
You want to go see Artemis 3?
Yeah.
All right, Jack, Lauren, Matt, thank you so much. Good luck to you, Jack. We expect you to be on a rocket here sometime in the near future. Study hard and get yourself through school. You're a fine young man. Thanks for joining us, guys.
Bye, Jack.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think we can all agree Jack is going far in life.
How old were you when you knew you wanted to be
my story is a little convoluted. I didn't know it for a little while. I envy kids like that who have a goal right from the get-go and then go for it. It's pretty spectacular, and this really puts it, at their fingertips when they can be there, watching, a launch or watching, pictures of the moon. They're thinking to themselves, why not? Let us do that. I'm a little older, so, it only happened a couple times, that I remember. I was a little young when it all happened, but I can see where kids nowadays are seeing people going to space all the time, now seeing us go to the moon, and I can't imagine that they're not thinking, let me be part of that. I want to be part of that.
And it's possible.
It's possible.